I hereby call to order the Thursday, June 10th, 2021 monthly meeting of the Abington Township Board of Commissioners. And let's go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Commissioners Thompson,
Here.
Brodsky,
Here.
Ball,
Here.
Carswell,
Here.
Rothman,
Here.
Vaughn, Myers,
Here.
Sapone,
Here.
Bowman,
Here.
DiPlacido,
Here.
Weingrod,
Here.
Vehe,
Here.
Schreiber,
Here.
Hecker,
Sorry, here. I was here on mute.
Here. Please be advised, Commissioner Vaughn will be joining us in a little bit. All right, please everyone kindly join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
With liberty and justice.
and justice for all.
All right. Okay, I have a couple of announcements that I'll try to do go through pretty briefly. On both June 7th and earlier tonight, June 10th, executive sessions of the board were held to discuss employee and employment matters. And I also wanted to announce that last Friday, June 4th, for the first time ever, we hoisted the Pride flag on the Abington Township flagpole in celebration of Pride Month, the month of June. This was not only the Pride flag, but in fact, this was the brand new Progress Pride flag, which, if you haven't seen it, is the traditional six-stripe rainbow flag with chevrons of additional stripes that are even more inclusive and that include, among other stripes, a black and brown stripe for black and brown folks in the LGBTQIA+ community who've long been extra marginalized and even the victims of even greater violence and discrimination. This is a huge historic step, and I really want to thank, among many people, so many commissioners attended. Our State Attorney General Josh Shapiro and our State Senator Art Haywood attended, and this would not have been possible without our colleague, the work of our colleague and dear friend, Commissioner Lori Schreiber. So thank you very much, Commissioner Schreiber. Please do check out the flag. You can see images of it on our Facebook page, or you can stop by the township building. We do not have any presentations tonight, so let's go ahead and get started with public comment on agenda items. If can give me 1 second, it always takes me a bit to get to my list here on my iPad. And all right, we have a hand up, so if you please let the resident in.
I am having a coughing fit at the moment. If you have someone else, can you come back to me? Just come back to me a second.
Okay, nope, that is no problem. Just catch your breath, take some water. We will definitely come back to you. All right, could you please go to the resident, Patrick Kucharski, I believe, and I apologize if I mispronounced that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Great. Yeah, you almost said it right. You actually would say it right. That's how they would say it probably in Poland, Kucharski, but it's Kucharski.
Kucharski. I will not make that mistake again.
Is this the appropriate time to make comment in regard to the massage ordinance?
Yes, that is an agenda item, and that is the appropriate time.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. First, I just want to say, as you all know, the massage establishment across the street from us, Jin Leon Asian Massage, was closed on the 13th. And obviously not necessarily due to the ordinance that you all are going to vote on tonight, but I do want to say that it has been really wonderful on our corner. We'd probably be a great case study on our corner on the environmental effects, probably just on our little corner of how the dynamics and the atmosphere has changed. And definitely for my family structure, the emotional psyche of our family has changed significantly. So we are grateful that it has been shut down. And I know that nothing is set in stone, and that's why, this ordinance is so important. And really not just for my family and not really just for Monroe and Jenkintown Road, but for the whole township. It is vital that this is passed. Obviously, there are so many questions that I'm sure you all have heard. Why has this been allowed to go on for so long? How was the communication between commissioners and law enforcement in all these years of investigation? And I really don't want to take my time in focusing on that, even though these questions are really important. I hope you all would answer some of them. But I really do want to speak for the women involved in this, and why it's also important that we as a township, who is considered a top-notch township, that we would go the extra mile having this passed for even the sake of people who are working in this these illicit businesses, and what the form of trafficking takes. Sometimes investigators, or whoever might be involved, might be getting sidetracked where they're just looking for signs of violence. And it's important to know just all the dynamics that are going on, even between the buyers that are coming in, and coercion going on in these types of businesses. And so obviously it's not safe for our communities in our township, but also for the women behind the scenes that are caught up in this. That it's a very messy thing. I hope that we as a township are not just setting this ordinance up just for the sake of ourselves, but also for the sake of these women. And I hope and I pray that we would also consider going the extra mile of maybe considering resources for these women. I'm grateful that the county has formed a new human trafficking task force. It's very powerful. And I hope that we as a township, I'm willing as a citizen to volunteer. I have a little background in counseling, anything, to help these women, point them in the right direction, to anti-trafficking initiatives and human trafficking courts, whatever it might be. I'm hoping that truly Abington will go down as a top-notch township, not just for looking out for ourselves, but also for our fellow human neighbors who have come in from other countries and other states and have gotten trapped into this. And I really do hope that something happens even for the buyers, because they've been exploiting these women for a long time. I still see the foot traffic of these men coming on this block, and they think that. So,
Mr. Kucharski,
Yes.
I apologize, but your 3 minutes are actually up. I do want to I want to thank you for your comment, and also for that particularly sensitive note regarding the women being exploited in situations like this. So I do want to thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. If now let's move back to Ms. Lehman.
Okay, thank you. I'm doing better, but I'm still not past. I got a big glass of water though.
We can hear you. We can definitely hear you. So.
Okay, good. So I appreciate what Mr. Kucharski just said, because that is a huge part of this issue. What's going to happen with the women, and just allowing them leniency and not charging them is not going to solve their problems in any way. And I think he touched on all of those things that are very important. I am hugely concerned about how this went on for so long. And I know we've had various explanations. For instance, it's under investigation and so on. Under investigation, when something is dangerous and somebody is being hurt, which the women who are trafficked are being hurt, and when neighborhood people may get hurt, and also the values of their property and their own safety, as you heard from Mr. Kucharski's family too. their own safety is at risk. So their health is at risk. It cannot go on that long. And what stuns me is the comments that we didn't have enough evidence to close it down, or you can see the brand new ordinance here is actually one that just took one small part of the old ordinance out. Why wasn't that done way back when these other massage parlors started springing up? So there are a lot of answers here that need to be had. And I wonder if a special town hall meeting to talk about this, to talk about how this happened and how we can never let this happen again. I'd ask you, Commissioner Spiegelman, when did you learn about this from the police? How long have you known?
Ms. Lehman, I'm letting you know you have 45 seconds left. I know you wanted a heads up on that.
Yeah, and I just asked you a question. So what you really want to say is, I'm not going to answer your ding dang question.
I didn't say that. I'm letting you continue.
So I'm asking for you to answer my question. When did you learn about it? If you're not going to answer it, just say, I'm not going to answer your question.
As I recall, it was within the last month or so.
Okay, well, I hope that you're concerned that this was going on and you didn't know about it and didn't know that there wasn't adequate legislation, weren't told that, weren't asked to create adequate legislation, but the solicitor certainly knew about it. And he knew that adequate legislation was needed. So I'm extremely concerned about all of this. And I just want to add real quickly as a final sentence.
Ms. Lehman, please wrap up in the next 10 seconds because your time has expired.
That you all can give people tonight the rights that they deserve to have, both at this meeting and at the next meeting. You can give them those rights. You don't have to wait until you pass some ordinance. You've given yourself the rights to do almost anything, and you have the right to give them proper speaking.
Ms. Lehman, thank you very much for your comments. All right. Okay, that is it for comments on agenda items. So now let us go ahead and start with the consent agenda. And for that, we turn to Board Vice President and Ward 1 Commissioner Tom Hecker.
Thank you, President Spiegelman. This will be a motion to approve the consent agenda as it appears in this evening's meeting materials, items A through H, and I so move.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes.
Thank you, President Spiegelman.
Thank you, Vice President Hecker, and don't go too far because now we have the new business of the full Board of Commissioners new business. We turn again to you, Vice President Hecker, Ward 1 Commissioner.
Thank you, President Spiegelman. We have two items under the Board of Commissioners new business this evening. The first is BOC-03-061021, and this is a motion to amend the per diem union CBA and the police CBA to provide for Emancipation Day as a paid holiday, and I so move.
Second.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Manfredi, do you have any comments on this before we move further? Manager Manfredi, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
President Spiegel, no, I have no comments. I'll defer to you as the sponsor.
Okay. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to publicly, I'll say this, I wanted to publicly apologize to my colleagues because as the sponsor of this bill, I didn't manage this very well. And because I basically took my eye off the scheduling ball, missed the appropriate opportunity to give everyone the heads up about this. And so unfortunately, it came to everybody as something of a surprise last month. That was 100% my fault. And I want to, again, I apologize to my colleagues privately, but I do want to say it in public. I want folks to know when I make a mistake, I own up to it. And I also would very much like to thank my colleagues for carefully considering this. I think that despite the clunkiness of my management of this agenda item, I do think that Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, is an important holiday for us to recognize. With that, comments or questions from the commissioners? If I miss you, yell out because I'm trying to scroll through my iPad here. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Our second item of business is BOC-04-061021. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 21-015, ratifying the declaration of disaster and state of emergency for May 27th, 2021 to June 10, 2021, and approving the declaration through June 17, 2021, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Commissioner Spiegelman, I have one.
Commissioner Thompson, is that you?
Yes.
Oh, go for it.
Solicitor Clark, given the legislature's actions today, do we know how that's going to affect this particular agenda item since it extends to the 17th?
So we're not 100% sure how it's going to be impacted. We've been keeping an eye on what the legislature has been doing over the last couple of days, and what they passed today seemingly has a provision that will allow portions of various codes that were suspended during the emergency to continue until the most latest declaration of emergency expires sometime in September. We've gotten a copy of the bill. We are taking a look and we are consulting with some state legislators to try to get a better sense of what they believe this is going to mean. And we hope to have some clarity early next week as to whether or not we can, for instance, continue with virtual meetings throughout the summer, or whether or not we have to return to in-person quorums by our July meeting. But what was passed today is a little confusing, so we're taking a further look and looking at some of the commentary from the debate on the resolutions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor Clark, and thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for your question. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, President Spiegelman. That concludes the new business for the Board of Commissioners this evening.
Thank you, Vice President Hecker. Now we turn to the new business of the Land Use Committee, and Land Use Committee Chair and Ward 6 Commissioner Mike Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman. Tonight, we only have one item on the Land Use Committee's new business agenda, and that is LU-03-061021, which is a motion to adopt ordinance number 2183, repealing and replacing chapter 105, massage establishments, in its entirety. And I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. You know what, Commissioner Thompson, is there anything you want to say about this? I know you've been working very hard on this.
Yeah, actually, again, I just want to thank the residents of Ardsley for coming out and commenting last month. I think that the amount of public comment that we heard really made a difference on this particular ordinance. I know it was impactful to me and it was impactful to others. You know, I fully support this moving forward, and I hope that my fellow commissioners do as well. I also want to thank the Abington Police Department, because when we were discussing this last month, they were on the scene of Jinlan, taking some action, and I'm hoping that maybe Chief Malloy can give us an update on what's happening at that location.
Chief Malloy?
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. over the last several months, we had two arrests, one for prostitution and one was an assault. And just to speak to Mr. Kucharski and Miss Lehman and other neighbors who we share the frustration. Believe me, my son, my daughter-in-law, my two grandchildren live in Ardsley. And when I tell you how complex these investigations can be when you're dealing with multi-jurisdictional and very, protracted investigations. And sometimes at the end of these investigations, they result in no prosecution. We worked closely with Commissioner Thompson and Commissioner Zappone and others to try to come up with an ordinance that would give us another tool in order to attack this problem. We share the concern for the victims. We also know there's a reluctance to charge those who are prostitutes / victims of human trafficking. But I just wanted to assure the residents down there, first of all, apologize that it took so long. But I think at the end of the day, once we get this one cleaned up, we will continue to focus and use this ordinance in order to limit the exposure of other victims in the future at the other massage parlors in our town. And Lieutenant Steve Fink, the commander of our investigations division, has done an outstanding job executing a search warrant on the 13th and bringing to bear some other resources in the township with fire and code, et cetera. And he continues to follow up to try to put an end to this. So I hope that's an update that is gives you a little bit more background of what we have been trying to do.
Thank you very much, Chief Malloy, and thank you again, Commissioner Thompson. With that, are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Commissioner Thompson, you all done with your agenda?
Sorry, yes. Thank you, Commissioner
had
Spiegelman.
to.
That concludes our land use agenda of new business for this evening.
Thank you kindly. Now we move on to the new business of the Finance Committee and Finance Committee Chair and Ward 12 Commissioner Matt Vahey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll turn over to our treasurer, Jay Blumenthal, for his monthly report.
Thank you, Commissioner Vahey. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start out again, as usual, with the amounts of monies deposited into Republic Bank. This will be for the month of May of 2021 and year to date. For the month of May, we deposited $14,456,789, which was an increase over the prior year of $9,562,966. Year to date, there's an increase of $13,708,649, which is better than a minus figure, of course. As for real estate taxes collected for May, we collected $664,953 compared to May of 2020 of $1,651,134, with a decrease of $986,181. Now, that's most likely a matter of timing because June 7th was the last day to pay face. So I'm sure we will catch up percentage-wise for year to date and for the balance to collect. That's my report. I'd be happy to entertain any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Treasurer Blumenthal. We'll move on.
You're
Next
welcome.
item on our agenda is FC-01-061021. Is a motion to approve the April 2021 expenditures in the amount of $2,170,276.86 and salaries and wages in the amount of $1,892,257.39 and authorizing the proper officials to sign vouchers and payment of bills and contracts as they mature through the month of July 2021. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Hearing none, let us have the roll call vote.
Commissioners Thompson,
Yes.
Brodsky,
Yes, ma'am.
Bold,
Yes.
Carswell. Yes. Rothman,
Yes.
Vaughn, Myers,
Yes.
Sapone,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
DePlacido,
Yes.
Weingrad,
Yes.
Vehi,
Yes.
Shriver,
yes,
Hecker,
Yes.
Spiegelman.
Yes, motion carries.
Oh, that concludes the business of the Finance Committee.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Vehi. That concludes our formal agenda. So we will go ahead and take public comments on general items. All right. Okay, we have one commenter. If we could please kindly let her in.
Hi, Laura Lehman from Meadowbrook. Again, we have, my computer just went out, the other computer, not this one. So I'm distracted here. So we have so many problems. I have just, I sent you the petitions, by the way, for the Willow Grove Mall. They're in your mailbox. That's for the next meeting. These were petitions signed by residents that asked for, no residential over at the mall. The issue with the mall and the fact, and all the other development issues where residents are not getting notified in any way. And you all know that. You all know that 90% of the people in this township didn't even know about the meetings or about what was going on. And then we allowed, things to devolve from there, where even in our planning commissions, we had the planning commission deciding not to vote. Then we had the applicant interrupting the vote. Where is there in this township to direct questions and concerns about very corrupt processes? This needs to be changed. We need to have a place where there is an address for lack of ethics. When residents need to get notified, we need to have a process where we did begin to get a process where we could address each of the committee chairs and ask to have things like this dealt with. But that's been taken away. And even though you're restoring the 3 minutes and taking away the 5 minutes in the next meeting, which you don't even have to do, you could do it whenever you wanted to. But even though you're doing that, you actually are not allowing a place where residents can bring a problem and that problem is resolved. They're not getting answers. This manager answers almost no one. I can't tell you how many times people are writing to me and telling me I can't get an answer from anybody. And I have, of course, the same problem.
Ms.
So
Lehman, you have 35 seconds left. That's just a heads up.
thank you for the heads up. How are we going to solve this? How are we going to resolve? I mean, I have a list that I created tonight that's like 2 pages long of absolute corrupt processes in this township. The abuse of the chair by Mr. Hecker, for instance, at the last meetings, just unbelievable, where he moved the speaking rights to the end and then he argued with everybody who wanted to finish them. I mean, that's not okay. You've written out any rules for yourselves.
Ms. Lehman, your time has expired. Thank you very much for your comments.
Let's fix it, okay?
And we have one additional caller. We have one additional commenter. If you please let Mr. Tobin.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. we
Okay,
can.
Mike Tobin from Fox Chase Manor. I want to touch a little bit on what Laura was talking about. One of the things that I would like to know, is there on any of these calls when public comment, is there any way we can get direct answers immediately? Like, is there any way of having a dialogue with whomever the question would be directed to and possibly get an answer, as opposed to just commenting on it and gets written down somewhere and then gets repeated, or, then hopefully you find out an answer. The second thing I want to talk about or comment on is about the land development in Abington Township. I understand the mall, and I am not anti-development, but I am anti-overdevelopment. And one of the big factors with the mall in particular is whatever is done there is going to set the stage for every other property that ends up going up for sale or needs to be redeveloped. We cannot have mass congestion of residential buildings in the township. My backyard is right in St. Basil, so I'm getting ready for that, that debacle, whatever's going to go on over there. But I think it's important for the commissioners to understand, we do not want overdevelopment, and whatever happens in Willow Grove Mall is going to set the stage for the rest of the township. One of the things that Mark Kaplan talked about in the Planning Commission was, and this is another thing that needs to be nailed down early, is the current mall has, I think it's like 17% open space. And he is pushing for that to carry over with his proposed apartment building. Well, if you're changing the use on the proposal, they're not entitled to have a grandfathered rule as far as 17%. They're not entitled to that. They need to follow the rules that are in place now, that are the new rules of the 25% open space. So that's one of the concerns I have, is that, like Mark Kaplan's of the world can manipulate the system, and the public doesn't have, the public doesn't have lawyers representing them in this whole process. So I urge the commissioners and everybody that's listening, you need to get the public involved early. And does the public need to hire a lawyer? I guess that's another question. So, and that's all I got to say, but we need to make sure everybody understands what you do at the mall is going to spread through any open space in the community. And just because there's a plot of ground doesn't mean we need to build on every square inch of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Tobin. I know that that Manager Manfredi would like to very, very briefly respond to that. So I will grant that, Manager Manfredi. Very brief, please. Manager Manfredi, can you?
Mr. Tobin, are you the Mr. Tobin that I spoke with last Friday, I believe?
He's not on anymore, but I believe.
Yes, I am the same. I am the same.
Right. So I guess the answer to your question is, how do people get answers to comments, and how do you get a response to your questions? Number one, I want to thank you for reaching out to Commissioner Rothman, because it was Commissioner Rothman who immediately reached out to me and asked me to call you. And I enjoyed our conversation and the ability for me to explain and talk with you about the land development process. And I think that's the system that we have. Ward commissioners. The ward commissioners are very responsive to their residents. They contact me, and whether it's me or a staff person, we're happy to answer questions, just as we did with you and I. And again, I remain available, as I mentioned to you, to meet as we discussed. So I just wanted to answer your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Manager Manfredi. All right, moving on to our next commenter is Linda Lee Montz. Please let Ms. Montz in.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have a question in reference to the discussion Ms. Lehman presented. Would I be correct in guessing that the commissioners have no legal responsibility to share any of this with residents of the township, and that our only voice is in voting for commissioners, and once we voted for someone, they have the opportunity to vote to accept just about any proposal regardless of what we think? Would I be correct in assuming that?
I normally, and this is not normally a back and forth time, but I can actually answer this very simply. As part of our representative democracy, we, the Board of Commissioners, are elected to represent people, represent our constituents, and to make decisions on everything from land development to various ordinances, to matters of police, to matters of public works, et cetera, on behalf of the residents. It's not a direct democracy where everybody comes to the agora like in ancient Greece and voices their opinion and they count hands. This is part of our job, is evaluating these things that come before us.
May I speak again?
You still have a minute and 35 seconds.
Okay, thank you for that response. Then I am correct in thinking that the power of decision-making is in the hands of the commissioners. And basically, all of these complaints we're posing about the mall and massage parlors, etc. We're basically spinning our wheels unless we get together a humongous group of people to complain. I went through this with a similar issue. I did not want Mad Mex to open a restaurant near my condominium community. By the time I was given the opportunity to complain, it was a done deal. My concern is that much of what we're discussing now are done deals, and we're wasting our time coming to these meetings because the decisions were already made. And I can accept that. We elected all of you. You can represent us in whatever way you want. That is, your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mons. Again, I'm going to break my own rule very briefly here, very briefly. I'm going to respectfully correct what you said, because we do, in fact, listen to our constituents. It does not require a giant mass of people. Each one of us listens to each of our constituents. The decisions that we eventually come to, which are intended to serve the greater good of all the residents of the township and our township collectively, might not be ones that certain people agree with, but we absolutely do listen to our constituents. Mr. Kucharski has his hand up again. Go ahead, Mr. Kucharski.
Thank you. This will just be brief. Again, it's in context to the massage ordinance. I just want to kindly just remind the commissioners in every ward, and I'm not saying that you all have not looked into each ward and what possible illicit massage establishments are in each ward. I know that there are other ones in each in different wards. There are some reviews, some really disgusting, horrifying types of reviews out there on the internet speaking about these places. And so once again, I just want, I'm just kindly reminding and suggesting to each commissioner, if you have not done so already or have not taken the time to do an extensive research in your ward, to the extent of what is actually in existence in your ward, please do so. Some of it is just right there out in the open on internet, and some you have to do a little more research to find it. And once again, I also just want to suggest that though there might not always be signs of violence, this does not mean that it's a safe place for these women, and obviously also for our community. But thank you very much for this conversation. I do thank Chief Malloy for the apology for it taking so long, and thank you that we are moving forward and finding solutions. I hope that it's a sobering reminder to all of us, to legislators, law enforcement, and even us neighbors, to really consider, not turning a blind eye to certain things like that if things don't look like the appearance of violence. And also to consider maybe even doing an inventory of what other type of ordinances out there that are not maybe able to be enforced. Maybe we could do you all could do a little inventory of that. Anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kucharski. Our next commenter is Mandy, Squirrel. So that's Mandy and/or Squirrel, Ardsley, PA. Please go right ahead.
Hi. I keep saying the squirrel part is for my grandkids. Anyway, I'm Andy, and I was horrified to find out that something was going on for years that I just walked past and thought nothing of it. I thought they were doing bad business in that massage parlor, and it takes some outstanding citizens to stand up and speak up. And I know Pat did a thorough job of making all of us aware. And I am under the assumption that our commissioners, we elect them, but we have to go to them and speak our mind, and they will listen. If enough of us, write a letter or show up, you get heard. This is something that took too long, but I understand red tape too. So I'm hoping that moving forward, there's a lot of misery with those poor girls that are involved in this, and neighborhoods that are under the threat of unsafe conditions. I walk past there all the time, and I used to comment to my walking buddy that, "Oh, that guy doesn't look too right, and I didn't realize he was a patron, and it's been a lot better on my walks now that it's been shut down. So I'm hoping this moves forward and around the different wards and hopefully past that so that we can get a better living of life going on here for us and for those poor girls. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mandy. And finally, we have Frederick Wright. If you could please let Frederick Wright in.
Good evening, Commissioner. How you doing? Thank you for the opportunity. Mark, I just have a quick question. When, since the Commonwealth is lifting all the restrictions on gatherings and meetings, do the commissioner have a firm date when we can start having face-to-face meetings? Because in this platform, I think it's kind of difficult for people to get all the information and really find out what's going on. So do you have a date, Mr. Commissioner, when you're gonna have face-to-face meetings resuming?
Yes, Mr. Wright, actually, I can answer that question. With the caveat that the state legislature might take action that might change this date, our target is to resume with our set of September meetings, to resume in-person meetings in the township building with whatever remaining precautions may need to be taken. So that is the answer. That is the answer.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. That concludes the public comment on general items. Thank you to everyone who commented. And now we are adjourned to the committee of the whole meeting